Good evening. You're joining with live on NalandaTV. We will start with introducing ourselves. I'm Sahan Ranitra.
I'm Gayatri Ratna.
I'm Pavit Rodrigo and he is Saran Ratnayaka.
We all know that scientists are the people who have knack to research and find facts and results in everything. They want to know about the happenings and changes in the world. Being a scientist is a hard job because they have to study and have great knowledge about their field working on. Also, they have to update themselves every day and write theories about those updates. They work hard every day to invent new things, upgrade old things, and give the people knowledge of new theories and new inventions. Also, they help to give reasonable and suitable solutions to larger and unsolvable problems. So now, we will talk about three famous and renowned people who are scientists and who are helped with giving new theories and inventions to the world. They are Galileo Galilei, Stephen Hawking, and Isaac Newton. Think for a moment how they started from small, uneducated families and became world renowned persons. So, we will start with Galileo Galilei. So, Pavit,
So, as Sanaya said, I will talk about one of the world's most renowned scientists, Galileo Galilei. Galileo Galilei was born on the 15th of February 1564. He was an Italian astronomer, physicist, and engineer. He was the father of observation astronomy, the father of modern physics, the father of the scientific method, and the father of the modern science. He studied speed, velocity, gravity, and free fall. So we mostly know him for that he created the thermoscope and the telescope. So the most important first things we did with this telescope is that we got the confirmation of the phases of Venus, and then we observed the largest satellites of Jupiter, and then the thermoscope was also used for the observation of Saturn and the analysis of its sunspots.
So, Pavit, me and Sahanaya would like to know about Galileo Galilei's family background.
Sure, guy. So, if we talk about Galileo Galilei's family background, he was born in Pisa, Italy, which was a part of Florence back then. His father was Vincenzo Galilei, and he was a very famous music composer and theorist in the ancient days. Also, his mother, Giulia Galilei, was also a small music composer. His surname Galilei was derived from his ancestor Galileo Bonaiuti. So, Bonaiuti was a physician, university teacher, and a politician in Florence in the 13th century. So, then Bonaiuti changed his name into Galilei because of some family problem. Galileo had two daughters and one son, but due to the illegitimate birth, he considered his daughters unmarriageable. So when he was studying medicine in 1580 at the University of Pisa, he noticed the swinging pendulum. It was like the small chandelier that took same amount of time to swing back and forth, no matter how far it was swinging. So then, since he was studying medicine, he thought he should get back into the world of theoretical physics. So when he returned home, after he cancelled his medical degree, he set up two pendulums of equal length and swung one with a large swing, and he swung the other with a small swing. and found that they kept time together. But it was not until the work of Christian Huygens, almost 100 years later, that the tautochrone nature of a swinging pendulum was used to create an accurate timepiece, such as normal clocks and all the grandfather clocks. But up to this point, Galileo had deliberately been kept away from mathematics, since a physician earned a very higher income than a mathematician. However, he accidentally attended geometry classes, talked to his reluctant and resentful, angry father into letting him study mathematics and natural philosophy instead of medicine. So, as I said before, after studying natural philosophy, he thought he should explore another field, such as we know him and is most famous for astronomy because he created the thermoscope. And there were so many uses of the thermoscope, as I said before. It was used for the analysis of the sunspots of Saturn. It was used for the four largest natural satellites or moons of Jupiter, and also the most important thing, it was used to observe the phases of Venus, etc. In 1588, he obtained the position of instructor in the Accademia degli Disegno in Florence, teaching perspective and
සිතේ මම
chiaroscopy.
නෑ ඊට පස්සේ මේ අරගේ
Then
වීඩියෝ එකට
Galileo
පස්සේ
acquired, like always, he wanted to do things related to aesthetics, such as astronomy and all those small things. So then he began a lifelong friendship with the Florentine painter Sigoli, who included Galileo's lunar observations in one of his paintings. And you can get to see them in the National Museum of the United States of America. Then, unfortunately, at the age of 77, Galileo was suffering from a very high pneumonia fever and very critical heart palpitations. So, unfortunately, the one of the greatest astronomers in the world, Galileo Galilei, died on the 8th of January 1644, aged 77. And as a respect burial for him, the Grand Duke of Tuscany, Ferdinando II, wished to bury him in the main body of Basilica of Santa Croce, next to the tombs of his father and other ancestors. So now we will show you a small video of Galileo Galilei's life story, and then we would go to a small commercial break. So stay tuned.
So again, you're joining with the program Great Minds. As Bhavit talked about Galileo Galilei before the break, so now I'm going to talk about Stephen Hawking. Stephen William Hawking was an English theoretical physicist, cosmologist, and author who was director of the research at the Center of Theoretical Cosmology at the University of Cambridge at the time of his death. He was the Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at the University of Cambridge between 1979 and 2009. His scientific works included a collaboration with Roger Penrose's gravitational singularity theorems in the framework of general relativity and theoretical prediction that black holes emit radiation. Often we call it as the Hawking radiation. Hawking was the first to set out a theory of cosmology explained by the union of the general theory of relativity and quantum mechanics. He was a vigorous supporter of the many worlds interpretation and quantum mechanics. And Hawking achieved a commercial success with several works and of popular science in which he discussed his own theories and cosmology in general. His book, A Brief Time of History, appeared in the British Sunday Times bestseller list of record-breaking 237 weeks. Hawking was a fellow of Royal Society, FRS, and he was a lifetime member of Pontifical Academy of Sciences, and he was a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And the medal he received was the highest civilian award in the United States. In 2002, Hawking was ranked number 25th in the BBC poll of the 100 greatest Britons. And in 1963, Hawking was diagnosed with the early on slow progressing form of mortal pneumonia disease that gradually paralyzed him over the decades. Even after the loss of his speech, he was still able to communicate, though with a speech generating device. Initially through use of held switch, and eventually by using a single cheek muscle. And then, if you want to know about Stephen Hawking's family background, so Hawking was born on 8th of January on 19th of in 8th of January in 1948 in Oxford to Frank and Isabel Ellen Hawking. Hawking's mother was born into a family of doctors in Glasgow, Scotland. His wealthy paternal great-grandfather from Yorkshire overextended himself buying a farmland and then went bankrupt in the Great Agricultural Depression during the early 20th century. His paternal great-grandmother saved the family from financial ruin by opening a school in their home. Both of his parents attended in the University of Oxford.
So, guys, now since you talked about his family background, I really want to know about Hawking's educational life. For example, where he attended school, the universities he attended. Please tell me, guys.
Sure, Pavit. Hawking began his schooling at the Briar School in Highgate, London. He later blamed its progressive methods for his failure to learn to read while at the school. At St. Albans, the 8-year-old Hawking attended at Albans High School for girls for a few months. At the time, the younger boys could attend one of the houses. Then Hawking began his university education at University College, Oxford in October 1959 at the age of 17. For the first 18 months, he was bored and lonely, and his academic work was ridiculously easy. When Hawking began his graduate studies, there was much debate in the physics community about the prevailing theories of creation of the universe. The Big Bang steady state theory, inspired by the Roger Penrose theorem of the space-time singularity in the center of black holes. Hawking applied the same thinking for the entire universe. And during 1965, he wrote his first thesis in the topic. Hawking's thesis was approved in 1966. There were other positive developments as well. Hawking received a research fellowship at Gonville at CEO's College at Cambridge. And he obtained his PhD degree in applied mathematics and theoretical physics. In his work, and in a collaboration, Penrose Hawking extended in a singularity theorem concepts which exploded in a doctoral thesis. And that included only the existence of singularities, but also the theory that universe might have started as a singularity. That joint essay was a runner-up at 1968 Gravity Research Foundation competition in 1970. Hawking postulated what became known as the second law of black hole dynamics, and the event horizon of black hole can never get smaller. So, Hawking had a rare early on a slow progressing form of motor pneumonia disease, MND, also known as motofocal lateral sclerosis, a terminal illness that affects the causes and the deaths of neurons that control the brain and the spinal cord that gradually paralyzed him over the decades. Hawking had experience in increasing clumsiness during his final year at Oxford, including a fall of some stairs and difficulties when drawing. The problems was ended, and his speech became slightly slurred, and his family noticed the changes when he returned home for Christmas, and medical investigations were begun. The MND diagnosis came when Hawking was 21 and in 1963. At the time, doctors gave him a life expectancy of 2 years. Hawking died at his home in Cambridge, England on 14th March 2018 at the age of 76. His family stated that he died peacefully, and is eulogized by figures in science, entertainment, politics, and so other areas. So, as I gave you so much of facts about Stephen Hawking, I think you should watch a short motivational video about Stephen Hawking.
Welcome back. You're joining with the greatest minds live on NalandaTV. So, Sahanaya gave you a brief introduction, and I talked about Galileo Galilei, and Dayut talked about Stephen Hawking. So, as we said, we will talk about three scientists. There's one more scientist left. So, now my friend Saran will give you some facts about a world-renowned scientist.
Thank you, Pavit. Now I'm going to share some information with you about a mathematician, a scientist, and a great author. It's Sir Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac Newton was born on 4th January 1643 in England. Unfortunately, when he was born, his father had died 3 months ago. His father's name was also Isaac Newton. After his father's death, his mother remarried and left his son with his grandmother. After mother's marriage had 3 children. From that moment, he was very courageous and faced his challenges very successfully. Now that's a good lesson for us, how Newton faced his challenge successfully. Years after, in 1687, he published his first book called Philosophic Naturalis Principia Mathematica, and it was about mathematical principles on natural philosophy, and it laid the foundations for classical mechanics. And not only that, he became a widely recognized scientist in the world, and a mathematician and a great author too. In 1666, he observed that the spectrum of colors existing in the prism in the minimum position of deviation is oblong, even though the light ray entering the prism is circular, which is to say the prism refracts light from different colors by different angles. Then that was a topic that debated for prior years. Now you will think, what are prior years? Prior years means a long time of period. Newton also investigated about refraction of light, demonstrating that the multicolored spectrum produced by a prism could be recomposed by using a lens and a second prism. He did a very good job for the country and to the world. Sir Isaac Newton passed away on 31st March 1672. And I think you got an idea about Sir Isaac Newton. And I'm also telling you to be a person like that. Sahan,
Thank you, Saran. So now we have talked about three scientists and their personalities, and we hope you that learned about how they started as small people and became world-renowned people. For example, if Stephen Hawking didn't have his disability, he could have done more to the world. But even though he had it, he is a great person, and still people feel sad and regretful that he died in 2018. Even Galileo Galilei was famous for astronomy capabilities. Even they are disabled, they worked for us. You all don't have to think you aren't capable of doing these things. So, if we thought I can't do these things, we would have lost most important things. For example, he said that black holes emit radiation. That theorem used in every university. In the present, we call it as Hawking's radiation. So I think you have a great knowledge of they started in their field. Have a nice day.